Commissioner, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I didn't see the vaccine, but don't worry. I'm on my way. Excellent. We may need them sooner or later. Automatic batteries to power, no bag speed. Ready to move out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Act 3 of The Cult Lords. I am your host JR, sitting in for Dane this week. I've come to realize it is the Batman.
I am Vengeance.
Okay, this week we are going to be reviewing the movie Batman by Wes Anderson.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. What kind of movie would that be like if Wes Anderson got a crack at Batman?
There'd be a lot of like segments and side rooms where you could see everyone Batman would battle from like the top of an apartment tower all the way to the bottom in a cross section.
That would be interesting. I would love to see Wes Anderson's take on Batman. Maybe even maybe Quentin Tarantino's take on Batman.
Oh.
I'd like to see Samuel L. Jackson be Alfred. He's saying, "What's up?"
That would be a great.
I can't even say what he would be saying to Batman.
Yes, that would be so hilarious.
Yes, but no, it is done by Matt Reeves. So
Reeves?
Bat Reeves. We coined that in Act 2.
Copyright, Bat Reeves.
So, Batman. Okay. I was just wondering, what will you do to our visitors that don't like and subscribe?
I'm Vengeance.
Wow. That's pretty harsh, man.
That's what it takes.
That's what it takes. All right. So, what should they be doing then?
Well, after their extreme beating, they should subscribe and press the red button.
Yes.
As we've mentioned in previous episodes, however you want to phrase this, all Arkham Asylum inmates should be pressing the red button to get their morphine intake and their subscription pleasure.
Yes.
Dane and JR told me that French, they need more. We need more. They need more subscribers. So any inmates out there that have not subscribed, and what was the stat that you heard about on Facebook that we have all these people watching us and not subscribing?
From our analytics, 70% of the people who watch our videos are not subscribers. 70%.
And what's going to happen to these people that don't subscribe?
I don't think you want that. I don't think you want that. So
Might be a little harsh.
a little harsh. Yeah.
Please.
Well, that actually might get us banned from YouTube. I don't know.
I don't know. Does that break their line?
If we go around doing that, is that
Send Batman around. We send me around.
Is that part of their EULA?
I bet it's not.
That we signed. I bet it's
That's
not
not
in there.
in there. It says
That
anything
happened-
about beating people to get them to subscribe.
I bet you there's nothing in there about that.
Hey,
Yeah. So I think we're fair.
Vengeance
We're free game to
is-
do that.
yes.
So
Dish served best cold. And a subscription
Batman.
is... Oh.
I know
yes.
Alfred's not here, but I think I need to be freshened up here a little bit.
So we were enjoying what Dane has provided, Angel's Envy, and you can see these beautiful wings that represent me as the Vengeance Angel. It's an Angel Envy rye soaked in rum cask for 18 months. The distillery, which is actually a newer distillery from 2013, is when they started, if I remember correctly.
Where is it?
It's in Indiana, of all places.
Yeah.
But they tried 100 different rums to come up with the barrels that this could be soaked in.
Who's
for
your
18
favorite
months.
whiskey?
Hoosier's my favorite whiskey.
Hoosiers.
But I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but you're going to get some rum, some spice in that. What do you think? It's good sipping whiskey. Is it good?
That's good. Give me the battering onto the back there. I don't know.
But very sweet. If you got a sugar tooth, you're gonna love this stuff. It's a little bit, on the higher side price-wise, but this distillery in general finishes every single whiskey they make for an extended period of time. That's not standard, by the way, to do this whole 18-month thing. Gives you all this complexity of flavors. Great for movie reviews.
But you keep a vial of this in your utility belt,
That's
don't
right.
you?
When I'm out watching, sitting on the top of one of the buildings, and Catwoman jumps up there and joins me, we both have a little bit of Angel's Envy rye to watch the criminals down below.
What happens when you and Robin are up there?
Robin and I?
Yeah.
Popcorn. Popcorn usually in the movie.
All right.
Robin's a little on the young side
for Batman.
For Batman.
Okay.
What are we here for?
We're here to talk about the movie.
That's right.
The Batman.
And again, if you guys have not subscribed, please do it, but watch our mini review right when we walk fresh out of the movie theater.
And
Dane and you walk fresh out of the movie theater. I was not there.
Yes. And we are giving away one of the Batman posters that we are showing right now. There's 3 choices. The way you can win one of these posters is if you make a comment by March 27th in one of these Batman videos. So if you do that by March 27th, you have a shot at winning one of those posters.
1, 2, or 3.
And we will sign it for you if you want.
Want us to sign it?
Yeah,
Well, Dane and you sign it. I'm not involved.
Or we can just simply drop ship it to your house from Amazon. Okay. All right. So, The Batman. This movie was released on March 4th, 2022.
March 4th. It's a Pisces movie.
Yes, by Warner Brothers. Can't tell you what the U.S. box office, can't tell you what the worldwide box office is. It dropped yesterday, so we don't know. But screenplay done by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. And then directed by Matt Reeves, who has 13 screen credits. Half of them were like TV episodes.
Oh.
But then the movies he's done are Cloverfield, Let Me In, the remake, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes.
Okay. And what other movie have we reviewed where the writer also directed the movie?
So this movie was starring Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne / the Batman. A lot of people were wondering if he had the acting chops to do it. And I think we're going to find out in a few minutes what we think. Zoe Kravitz was Selena Kyle, who is the Catwoman. Jeffrey Wright, who got more irons in the fire than The Rock,
That guy has definitely been in a lot of like touch-tone type stuff lately. James Bond.
James Bond.
Westworld.
The French Dispatch.
The French Dispatch.
Yeah.
Well, this movie, obviously.
Yeah, this movie, yeah.
And there's something else in there.
He's been in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of movies. So he plays.
That looks like him.
He plays Lieutenant Gordon.
Yes.
Paul Dano.
Not the commish.
Paul Dano plays the Riddler. Colin Farrell plays the Penguin. And Andy Serkis plays Alfred. And finally, John Turturro plays Carmine Falcone. Mm-hmm. So, the movie summary for this is, when the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his own family's involvement. So,
yes.
that was it. Okay.
That was it.
All right. Wow. And I thought Dane was weird, but you're a little weird here. No, just kidding.
I'm getting worked up about this movie synopsis.
Oh, okay. So, the opening scenes shows that, the current mayor of Gotham City was giving a speech like at a rally, and it finishes up he and his family are returning home, right? So it's a nice kind of like luxurious 3-story condo, in downtown Gotham, I guess.
Right.
And, he goes in and he's upstairs, and it looks like he gives his wife a kiss and they leave. Mm-hmm. But he's watching.
Somebody's watching him from across the street.
Somebody's watching him from across the street.
Probably a masked person.
And you thought it is the masked man, the Cape Crusader, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe. And so what happens is, but then you see as they're like scanning across the building, they start scanning the skylights to see entrances in, right?
Right.
But anyways, the mayor
Rich people always have open entrances on the top of their building.
Yeah, so now the mayor is in his top floor conservatory, and Colonel Mustard with a candle pipe in the conservatory.
It did almost look like a candle pipe, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Comes in and murders him.
It was a creepy scene, though, because he just appeared in the background, and he didn't see him there. And you see the guy walking back and forth, and he's back
he
here.
doesn't see him in the shadows.
It was almost like something right behind your head that you never see in the camera,
just standing in the shadows.
Just standing in the shadows, right around here, back here.
But when the TV lights up enough, it shows just glimpses of somebody, a masked man, standing behind him.
And you almost think that might be Batman. To tell you the truth, I knew it wasn't, but but you thought for a second.
Point you did.
Well, because
you weren't sure.
Maybe it was an origin Batman. Maybe it was an early Batman. I mean, they were clever about that they didn't really explain what was going on there. But go ahead.
No, so he kills him, bludgeons him over the head
with his weird tool,
with his object,
silver chromium tool and
then proceeds to duct tape his face and leave him with a message written. No more lies on his face, right?
No more
So then
lies.
this brings in, Gotham police that are there. And what's interesting, and I want to talk about this, is you see Lieutenant Gordon coming in, and he's invited with him a guest, and that guest is the Batman, right? And so they are walking in together.
I was there.
They are walking in together past all the police. Police are all staring at the Batman. All right, this is enough of this.
I do get a lot of stares.
So they they're staring him down. You can tell they don't trust him. They don't like him. There's a face of disdain on their face. So Lieutenant Gordon takes him in. And they start looking at the crime scene together.
Right. And that was a very powerful scene for me because, you kind of got and we should point out this is year 2.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. So this is year 2 of the Batman.
Right.
So thankfully this movie didn't feel the need to go in and show the origin story of the Batman.
Talked about it. They
right?
referenced it, but it was in a grander picture.
We didn't need to see
yeah.
somebody shooting his parents in the alley,
Right.
his mother's pearls hitting the ground, and he's just left standing there.
Money being taken
a
for
new
no
orphan,
reason.
right?
Traumatized.
And then we didn't need to see what happened after that, how he trained, how he became, a great detective, a great fighter, and, used his money to put together toys of the trade, a suit and everything like that.
Right.
So we've seen all that before in movies. We did
Right.
not need to see that here. So he shows up, it's year 2. And
Year 2. And so people don't know who he is. They
know who he is, but
they've heard of him, but they don't trust him.
They think he's a masked vigilante. He's
Right.
been on the news a few times for
But he's
beating
not
people
really
up.
well known.
But he's not well known yet.
He's known as obviously the vengeance vigilante or something like
Right.
that. But he's still never killed anybody, but he's not trusted by anybody in authority. And by the way, we should say, because we forgot to mention this, that the review you'll be seeing, by the way, is heavy in the spoilers. So you're going to need to jump to this point above our head to avoid any spoilers.
Well, that's true.
Because we will be going in-depth analysis of this movie. So jump to this point to the end to hear our Cut Lord's ratings.
Yes.
I'm standing in for Dane. He's not here today. Was out on a motorcycle, and maybe he's trying to get a banana out of the tailpipe.
All right.
Watch a previous episode for that. But ratings will be very revealing and how we generally thought this movie ended up.
Yep. If you want to see our spoiler-free ratings that we did right out of the movie theater, here's a thumbnail of what it looks like. You can go to our page, you can click on that, and it's a 7-minute review. And I know you're thinking, thank God, why can't they do all these reviews in 7 minutes? But that's the spoiler-free review. This is going to be an in-depth analysis of the movie. So, it's going to be 30, 40 minutes here.
So get ready. Hold on to your seats.
Yep.
We're going deep now.
We're going deep.
So the police don't understand, don't believe that he's a, character on the good side of the law, that he's, and obviously this movie is setting him up as a detective.
The cool thing is, as they're going through the clues, and trying to find out everything, in that room that's going on, they've got the CSI kind of guy in there, and he's like,
Forensics.
"Who is this guy? He shouldn't be here. It's a crime scene."
Right.
And Lieutenant Gordon's sticking up for him.
He walks in, he's like,
"He's my guest."
no, he's got gloves.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got gloves.
That was probably the only one of the 2 comedic moments in the entire movie.
There was, in this movie, which I'll go ahead and say right now, is a very good movie, there was zero comedy relief almost in this thing. I mean, usually in superhero movies, especially when you see like Thor, right, or the Avengers even, they've got some sort of comic relief in there. Mm-hmm. And like even in the Snyder cut, there's a little bit of comic relief with the Flash. But when you come to this movie, that's not what Matt Reeves is trying to accomplish here. And there is very little comic relief. The laughs that you get, as you said, or I should say Dane said, sorry, Batman.
Yes.
Dane said,
point.
Yes. Dane said in our spoiler-free review, the comic relief came when you would see the fear in the policeman who would step back from the Batman, and everybody in the theater was kind of laughing. You didn't see this, so,
No.
Yeah. Why does Batman turn his head slowly? Why is that? I don't know. Okay. All right. So anyways, it kind of sets off the movie because the notes are coming from the Riddler.
Well,
right?
Although you don't know who I forget in the movie, did they call him the Riddler? Did he identify himself as a Riddler?
Yeah. So what?
I don't think they ever identified him, the Riddler.
No, they identified him the Riddler.
Like the newspapers, I think, did during the movie as it was going around.
No. I mean, because they called him the Riddler because I think he signed something, the Riddler.
Oh, because, I mean, this is technically the Riddler's origin story.
Yeah.
This movie really was what this is about. So.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just saw it about 24 hours ago. So,
but that's the beauty of this movie is that, Batman was year 2, so you get a little bit of that fresh source Batman. And then the Riddler and all these other villains, which we'll talk about that a little bit later, they're coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden. And so you're now, for the first time, getting a little bit of a dribble. Like, you're not really sure who this is. I mean, if you weren't familiar with the whole Batman subculture of villains, the rogue gallery of villains or whatever they call them, you wouldn't know who this was because I don't think they didn't really call him that.
But, I kind of thought there was a card that was addressed to Batman there, to the Batman, that they opened up, and it told a riddle, which he knew that the riddle was justice, I believe, was the...
Yes, he figured things out. He's obviously a smart dude. He's figuring these things out very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah. Although
I should say I'm figuring.
What I do love about this is they bring back the Batman computer in this, kind of thing. In the Christian Bale, they didn't really have a Batman computer. Right. Remember how in the Adam West one, they would go plug in a riddle and it would go beep, 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 beep. And then you would get like a CVS receipt come out and then it would be like the answer, remember?
Yes, I remember that now.
Now, question. Is there any bank in Gotham City which Black Widow has not robbed?
My word. Wherever he is, Batman must be operating his remote control Bat-computer oscillator.
Here we are. The just opened Heritage First National Bank.
That's right. That's a great observation. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
They never really did. He's always gave Lucius Fox or Alfred something to do, and then they disappeared and came back. But in this one, they actually show
him going to his computer
and on that point,
and typing stuff in, and like getting analysis and AI, BI analytics done on it. It was really interesting.
And I thought that was the very first time, because of the noises and everything. You remember there was almost like a weird dot matrix printer?
Yeah.
That it was like Blade Runner-ish.
Yeah.
Where it was like a future, slightly, retro feel to it. And so, that's a great observation.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. I love that they brought back the Batman computer.
The Bat computer.
The Bat computer. So, So now this is leading them, this murder is kind of leading them on a chase because there's riddles that are taking them, that throughout the movie, taken from place to place to place to place. And what I said to Dane yesterday, and I don't know if you've seen this movie or not yet, but maybe you lived it.
I only heard about it.
Okay. What was really awesome about this is in the past movies with Batman, you have your Michael Keaton Batman, you have your George Clooney, Val Kilmer, your Christian Bale. When Commissioner Gordon or Lieutenant Gordon or whatever rank he has, when he's helping Batman, he just kind of gives him a clue, and then he sets Batman off to go do his thing.
Or he just tells him, hey, there's something bad going on.
There's something bad going on.
Go fix it.
Yeah, I'll work on it over here, and you do that. This was one where these guys were like partners the whole way through the movie, going on all of the assignments together, working together as a team to try to, solve the riddles, right? And you had...
And it was only the two of them because everyone else was against Commissioner Gordon, Lieutenant Gordon.
Right.
And then obviously everyone didn't like Batman either. They thought, vigilante, the cops don't like him. They want to know who the hell he is.
So, and so this was my one thing that I wanted to bring up to you is we appreciate the fact that they didn't go into all the backstory of who Batman is and how he became Batman. But you do wonder, how did Lieutenant Gordon and Batman become so close? Because they start the movie this close, right? What led them to be this close that they are going out and they have each other's back? They are investigating all these things together. They really don't go into that. I wish they would have, even just for lip service, touched on a little bit of that, of how they became that close.
I thought it was more with the implication that via previous criminal investigations, Batman supplied Lieutenant Gordon with like intro that was.
But you're
info
assuming that.
I'm assuming that.
Yeah.
So yes, that's because that's kind of how the movie started. So you assume that they were just settled in their own ways. That oh, I'd call you, you show up. Because that was the one big thing also in that movie was that the big bat lamp was not on top of police headquarters. It was on some random skyscraper area. That Which
and a lot of times it wasn't normally to call the Batman for an issue. It was to let the criminals in Gotham City know that the Batman was on the prowl, and just like a typical detective noir movie from the 40s, 50s, a lot of times when the detectives are out, doing their detective work, they narrate like what they are doing, in the movie. Batman is narrating, in the very beginning of this, and he's talking about fear. Fear is like one of the greatest motivators to stop these types of criminals, right? And when fear is in the air, and it shows, as he's narrating this, it shows all these criminals looking up in the air, seeing that signal, and suddenly like, oh, it's time to go in.
Right.
And we're scared. We don't want to be out on the street.
They all of a sudden drop whatever their crime they're doing, and they're like, let's get the F out of Dodge kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, that definitely, in this movie, they 100% stress that Batman has already put his persona out there. He is the symbol of vengeance, and I will go after you, and I live in every dark shadow. And they really stress that.
And this was,
there was so many dark scenes where he walked out of a dark corridor. It was kind of creepy. There was a little bit of that. They really touched on that a lot. And criminals were like, "Blah! I can hear somebody like," and he always had the heavy boots, almost like Frankenstein, like boom.
Well, and like when remember when that sequence, remember when that sequence began, and they would show the thing, in the sky, and the criminals would look at every dark corner and think they heard something, right? Like in that dark corner or behind that door, and they would like freak out and run. You know what I mean? And there was nothing there, but they were afraid of the Batman being there.
They learned from me teaching them a lesson in the past.
So to me, like as this is happening, I'm like just enjoying this, right? This is how people are supposed to fear Batman, especially in these earlier years. So they did an excellent job of that.
They weren't looking for the kapow, bam. They were just scared at every level.
Or Batman at a gala ball doing the Watusi. You know what I
mean? Wait, what do you mean?
Yes. But I loved the dynamic in this movie of Lieutenant Gordon and the Batman. It was like
it worked really well because you kind of felt like they were both outsiders. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. He is an outsider, but then you never, in all the Batman genre, you never thought of Lieutenant Gordon or Commissioner Gordon as like kind of an outsider that nobody really liked him either because honestly he was a little bit on the goody two-shoe side and he even got a little sense of that from the rest of the police there and definitely the captain like he's incorruptible the regular because there was a Commissioner Jim something I don't know what his name was so that's an element that was brought out heavy in this movie
because I don't know what half or a third of the police force is corrupt, right?
Yes.
But once again, those corrupt officials, make it hard for the good officials, and Lieutenant Gordon represented the good guys, right? So, what's cool is like the Riddles lead them on a chase where they think they need to. It's led to some organized crime, which is led by a couple of people. One is this Carmine Falcone, which is John Turturro, and one of his henchmen, which is Cobblepot, the Penguin, which is Colin Farrell. So
they just call them Oz once in a while, right?
Yeah,
and
because it's Oswald Cobblepot, right?
But they never said Cobblepot.
They said it one time.
Oh, they did. Okay.
They said it one time when they were like.
So they kept.
But I think Matt Reeves wisely thought that the name Cobblepot is almost a campy name.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep this out. We're going to call him the Penguin. We're going to call him Oz, right?
And they didn't directly call him the Penguin a lot of times. He was just kind of like as a side, like a smart ass.
Well, no, I think he did not like that name.
Yeah.
And, but everybody called him the Penguin. Mm-hmm. And even Batman, when he was saying, trying to figure a riddle, they were talking about a rat with wings, and they were talking about flightless birds, and then he goes, well, that could also be the Penguin. A penguin is a flightless bird with wings, right? And then that takes them on a chase to go to the Penguin. And you know what? That reminds me.
What?
Batman in this movie was extremely intelligent, was quick to come up with answers for some of these riddles, but he wasn't 100% right all the time on these riddles. Did you notice that? There was times where he thought it was something, and then it took further clues down the road for him he changed his opinion, like, oh, that's not what it was. It was this.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, because normally he's kind of purveyed as, what's the word I'm looking for?
Infallible.
Infallible.
Yeah.
Like he's quick and coming up with things immediately. In
right.
this case, it was more like, well, I'm reacting to a clue at that particular moment, and I'm coming up with this answer, and then 10 minutes later, something else has changed. Nope, let's go for this one instead,
Right.
So, yeah, he's definitely, which is exactly what a detective would do.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
They're not going to know. They have to kind of react to things as it comes along, and they discover new clues, and that was the great thing about this movie, is that they really made this like a detective film noir drama.
Right.
With Batman.
Right. And so, I wanted to bring up some of the kind of supporting characters in this, so that he meets along the way of his the
villains or the good guys.
Well, there's the good guys, there's the villains, and then there's the kind of the anti-heroes. And one of the anti-heroes would be a Selina Kyle, who plays the Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz. And you know who Zoe Kravitz is in real life?
The daughter of, what's his name, Kravitz? I can't think of it. Lenny Kravitz?
Yeah.
And who's also the son of the woman from Jeffersons.
Well,
yes.
do you know who Zoe Kravitz's mom is?
Isn't this Bonet?
Lisa Bonet.
Yeah, Lisa Bonet.
Yeah, Lisa Bonet. So,
who is from the Huxtables?
Yeah, who leads to Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby. Who leads to?
Who is out there. Nah, I won't go.
Are we going that way? We had a previous discussion about this whole thing with Bill Cosby. And
we're going.
If an artist creates something, we're going off subject.
So let's get back to Batman. But anyway, so Zoe Kravitz plays Selina Kyle. And you don't know what her motivation is in the very beginning, but she gets wrapped up in this because she works for the Gentleman's Club.
She works hard for her money.
She works for the Gentleman's Club, owned by Carmine Falcone, John Turturro.
Yeah.
And works for people like the Penguin and the other bad guy that was in there. I can't remember his name.
Mark, what was his name? Go ahead.
But you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. His name is unimportant. But anyways, she's working for them. She has a roommate who's a Russian model.
As they all are.
Yeah, but this Russian model gets mixed up because she was secretly seeing the mayor who just got murdered. Mm-hmm. And
opening sequence.
Yep, and this opening sequence. And pictures of her and the mayor start leaking out towards the media.
She's got a big black eye, like somebody's just giving her a beat down.
Yep. So pictures leak out. So Selina Kyle...
Courtesy of Lieutenant Gordon.
Yep.
That was a clever thing with the Riddler. He took the thumb off. He cut the thumb off. And he made a thumb drive.
Yeah. Well, that was part of like all of the clues, or one of the parts where Batman didn't get it at first, right?
Right.
And then when he like a little bit later on, he puts two and two together and he goes, try the thumb. It's a thumb drive.
Right. That was another funny moment.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a thumb drive.
Yeah.
So he puts the drive in his laptop, and I'm sorry, this was very stupid of Lieutenant Gordon there. And because he had an internet connection, it sends out all the pictures once they decrypt it. It was like, what?
Right.
Who didn't think of that?
Yeah. So anyways.
The Riddler was a hacker, basically.
He was a hacker, and part of a hacking community, which we'll learn about in a minute. But anyway, so Selina Kyle was part of this, and she gets mixed up with Batman because they kind of cross paths a couple of times, mainly for her roommate, who one of the clues leads them to her, and so he follows her and realizes that by day it's Selina Kyle. By night, it's the Catwoman who's like a little bit of a burglar and is,
out for herself.
But they kind of connect.
Yeah.
And she asks for help with her friend. So the Batman says, "Okay, I'll help with your friend." The Russian model. Because this has something to do with a case that I'm, working on. So I might as well help you at the same time. But what happens is the relationship starts developing between the two. And, there's a lot of sexual tension, if you will.
There is a bit of that.
Between them.
Just a touch between myself and Selina.
Oh, yes. So you and Zoe Kravitz, there's, a lot of tension between you two.
She just
doesn't
understand me. Mm-hmm. But she is...
I've got a picture of her and you together. I'll just show it
that's
right.
Right. Here's the two of us.
All right.
Vacation photos.
So,
but that was a very distinct comment she made is, I have a thing for strays.
Yeah.
Which Batman is technically... technically a stray.
Well, I tell you what, in this movie...
Women have sympathy for the mask.
Let's just hit on this before we go to the rest of the characters that are in there. We've talked about Selina Kyle. We've talked about Carmine Falcone, the Penguin. The two that we still need to talk about is...
The twins?
Alfred. No, not the twins. We still need to talk about...
twins in the movie.
Alfred, and then we'll talk about one other. But anyways, so let's talk about Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. Because we're talking about him as Batman in this. People fear him in the streets. He's partnering with Lieutenant Gordon. The police don't trust him. When they show a lot of like news clips, the media doesn't trust him. The woman running for mayor who ends up winning mayor doesn't trust him. Nobody trusts him, right?
Basically because the other guy got killed. So I always kind of thought there might have been, she was in collusion with the...
I was kind of wondering that too.
Right.
Doesn't appear so.
Side story.
Doesn't appear so.
This is a mayoral race
campaign going on. And since the opening act is the sitting mayor getting murdered, she ends up winning the mayor race pretty easily. So anyways, but Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, when you see Christian Bale, when you see Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, and Adam West, and all of them, they're kind of like, upper crust, posh playboys, maybe dating supermodels, Russian ballet dancers, right? They're looked at
going into their yachts when they need to go to Japan.
Yeah, they're looked at by the public as, like a Harry of the royal family out yachting and doing his things,
having fun
doing his thing. This is not what Robert Pattinson is doing. In fact,
no,
he's a recluse, and when people see Bruce Wayne out in the public, they freak out like he's Howard Hughes. Like, oh my God, Bruce Wayne, you're out? We know who you are because you're the orphan of a famous billionaire, like a Bill Gates or an Elon Musk. But since the death of your dad, he's become a recluse and almost a strange kind of cat.
Well, he's basically become Gen Z.
Yeah.
He likes to stay in his room and watch his videos.
Probably so.
Watch his YouTube videos in his room.
Yeah, he's probably a subscriber.
Yes, we need a lot of those, by the way. We need more Bruce Waynes to subscribe.
Yeah.
Cult Lords need that, not me.
So, but he's kind of an odd... He's a different take on Bruce Wayne, I think.
He's a Gen Z take on him. He's got like the goth thing going. He wears like the heavy makeup, which of course they show him in a lot of times when he's not in the public.
Right.
He's still wearing it. I wouldn't be surprised if he has painted black fingernails or something, right? I mean, they never showed that, but
I don't know.
But I mean, I just thought that.
But he's not a socialite.
Right,
That's
he's
for
not, like,
dang sure. And
everyone
in fact,
knows he's got money, but he's not hanging out in the.
And who
general
was it?
community.
The lady that comes up to him. She's like, Bruce Wayne, I've been wanting to talk to you because, we've got a lot going on. Your father
was
used
the
to
mayor.
support this. Was that the mayor?
That was the
and
mayor.
I would love to talk to you about, getting out because you practically do nothing for this community, right?
Right.
So, and then he kind of laughs a little bit because, she doesn't think he's doing anything for the community, but he knows he's out there risking his life, as Batman.
So it was almost comedic.
Yeah, almost.
One of the third joke I think we're trying to point out here that you're not doing anything for the community, Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Because she has no idea
Right.
what I do. Don't touch me. What's under the table?
You trying to play footsie with me there, Mr. Batman?
I thought the bat dog was under the table.
Oh, okay. All right, Big Daddy. All right. So, where were we? Oh, so I did want to bring up one other supporting character and get your take on this.
Okay.
It's Alfred. Okay.
Yeah.
So, of all of these supporting characters, Lieutenant Gordon, Selena Kyle as Catwoman, the Penguin, John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, I think every single one of those characters had a good amount of screen time to develop their character and make their case about who they were. I thought of all of these characters, Alfred was underutilized the most. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the way you just termed that, yes, I would agree that underutilized.
Yeah.
Fully, that he was not played out in this movie. But I think what happened is that he's been played out in so many other movies, they kind of figured we need to give him a little bit of rest time and just have him filling in the pieces between different things. Because, yeah, I mean, in previous Batmans, Alfred was out there racing around in the car, pretending he was Batman.
Well done, Alfred. And bravely, too.
You were great, Alfred. You even sounded like Batman.
Small wonder, Master Robin.
That was my own voice, Robin. Remember those lessons in ventriloquism?
Gosh, yes. I should have thought of that.
No, don't blame yourself, Robin. It's sometimes difficult to think clearly when you're strapped to a printing press.
He was, doing almost like, your Q in James Bondian, He was your Q fixing things. He was a medic.
Yeah.
And then
with Michael Caine,
right.
He was very involved with Christian Bale.
Right.
And then with Ben Affleck, they had Jeremy Irons. Basically, Jeremy Irons is sitting at the computer with a headset while Batman's out. He's helping do all the craft and stuff like that.
He was a great help for me in that movie.
Yeah.
But in this particular movie, I think Andy Serkis, Andrew, I call him Andrew.
Gollum.
Andrew Gollum. He's done a great job in Gollum. But Andrew was more of a father figure to me.
Yeah.
And that's really what the only point of him in this movie was, that he was important to me because I had no other direct relations.
So I want to ask your opinion on this. So I'm going through all the supporting characters and how they were. We already talked about the whole movie is basically following up clues to lead to who the Riddler is and what his final plan is. And we'll get to his final plan. But making its debut is the new Batmobile. Because originally Batman doing a lot of motorcycle work in this movie, right?
Oh, it's nonstop. It's nonstop motorcycle work in direct rain.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Dane is out right now on his motorcycle. I don't ride in the rain a lot. You avoid it. And that was full on pour.
I know.
And they're him and Catwoman are just, and I know that's an experienced motorcycle type thing, but you normally avoid the rain because it gets slippery and you're only on two wheels. So yeah, I agree with you.
The Batmobile would be
a little bit more utilized.
But when it does make its debut, I have to tell you,
and this
Batman, Dane and I yesterday, we went and saw it in a special Dolby Atmos theater from AMC.
I heard they were good.
And in the Chicagoland, there's only 4 or 5 of these things, right? And the one that we saw was in Naperville. And in this theater, they only have one. And we were sitting in there. They've got speakers within the chairs. They have to play the rumble. When the rumble came on for that Batmobile, and it was rumbling through our chest, and there's some sounds like you've never heard before, and you can see the characters on screen. You can see the Penguin. You can see his henchmen. You can see even Jim Gordon. There is fear in all of their eyes from what they are hearing. Even the Catwoman is scared, and then they show this dark car, and then suddenly the cabin light kind of goes on, so you see the silhouette of Batman in there, and then you hear this sound, and I mean, it was a glorious scene for this Batmobile. I mean, better than, I can't remember any other Batmobile scene being better than this. And then that leads to the chase that you see in the commercials, in the trailers.
Right.
And that was a very involved chase, and it was a really fun action scene.
I know how to makey my cars. I know how to makey my cars. I did that on purpose on screen.
What did you think?
And I thought...
What did Dane think of that, though?
Oh, what did Dane think of that?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a super powerful scene.
Wasn't it?
And I meant to do that.
Yeah,
But Dane loved it. He told me that he thought that was a great scene. And it was well done in the sense that, and this is going back to the whole Alfred thing, they never showed like anyone touching the car to build it. They just showed the sound, and you know what? We're going to try to play some of that sound right now, so turn your speakers up
I don't know
right now! We're back.
We probably didn't find that sound, but okay.
Maybe we didn't.
All right.
I think we
but
could.
anyways, but
yeah, it was a great scene.
Right.
I mean, you know, the movie alone could have stood on the Batmobile. Oh. They didn't have it in the movie enough.
I know.
I mean,
you know what? Like in past Batmobiles, like, you know, the Christian Batmobile was like a souped up Hummer, right? And that was kind of believable. The Michael Keaton Batmobiles, they looked ridiculous, to be honest with. A lot of people thought those were cool, but they look ridiculous to me. They look unrealistic. Of course, this is the classic Batmobile,
right,
with Adam West. But this Batmobile, which is probably a Dodge Challenger. What was this make of this car?
I know, it was a Challenger, or it was almost like a weird Nova.
They show a scene early on in his little Bat Cave, which wasn't even really a Bat Cave. It was this unused subway station
underneath the Wayne Manor.
Yeah, under the Wayne building.
Turns out to be a building that looks like the Wrigley building in downtown Chicago.
So they show the Batmobile sitting up on, you know, like some rails or whatever.
Maintenance.
And then they show the engine outside the Batmobile, and this thing looked like it should be on like a boat or something. You know what I mean? It was like not normal for a car, but it was amazing looking, right?
I know how to build engines.
All right.
Me and Alfred, we threw it together out of chromium parts and a little bit of pixie dust.
Awesome.
But it was a great looking.
It was a great looking car, which led to a great chase scene. A
little bit of a jet out of the back,
which led to a great.
So actually, an homage to this car because it was a jet engine out the back.
Exactly. So now that we've talked about the characters, and let's get back to the story arc in Act 3. As the clues continue to take them, you know, around the city, around Gotham, different murders going on. We won't get heavy into them. You'll need to go see the movie. But it finally takes them to Arkham Asylum. Not Arkham Asylum. It takes them to Gotham Orphanage. Orphanage, right? And this was an orphanage that Thomas Wayne had opened up while he was alive. And then apparently when he died, the orphanage lost funding, closed down, and is now just an abandoned building.
And part of that is Bruce Wayne just, you know, same thing, Gen Z, just didn't care about that stuff anymore. All he wanted to do was his own vengeance scheme.
And you know what? You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point. Because part of the limited role that Alfred did serve was he kept reminding Batman, hey, when you get a chance, we need to talk about the bills that have come in from accounting, and the accounting, you know, we really need to talk because we're in dire straits here. And Robert Pattinson says, I don't care if I lose the whole company.
I know. All I'm going to do is do my thing.
I'm just going to do my thing. I don't care.
Do my thing.
I don't care about money. I don't care about the Wayne Industries.
Right.
You know, so it seems like they are on the verge of bankruptcy.
Right. I mean, you know, and again, Bruce Wayne was a Gen Z.
Yeah.
They don't care about money.
Yeah.
They don't, you know, they don't give a crap about anything other than their very narrow focus of, and they made a big point about that he just stays up all night and sleeps during the day.
Right.
I mean, they kind of kept that going at the beginning, that he might have been a little bit off from that.
He's a little bit off.
He's a little off from that because that's all he's doing. Is staying up all night, battling criminals as Batman, and then coming home and sleeping all day long. So, I mean, he
has a little PTSD from watching his parents die right before him.
Yep.
So, but it takes him to this Gotham orphanage, which is now abandoned. So he and Lieutenant Gordon go in, and then he goes, I guess there's a little bit more comic relief here.
Right.
He says, no guns. And then what is Lieutenant Gordon says?
Goes like, that's your thing.
That's your thing, not my thing.
That probably was the biggest laugh in the entire movie. He's like, no guns.
Yeah.
That's your thing. He's like walking around with
So they go in, and while they make their way in there, they find a bunch of tweakers who are living in there, and they did a purposeful jump scare like you would see in a B horror movie. Which remember I turned to well, you weren't there. I turned to Dane and I said, they did a cheesy jump scare there.
Oh, was Dane impressed that you pointed that out?
Yeah, he laughed. He's like, I know, I saw that. So then they find their way into a different room where a film is playing, and it shows Thomas Wayne, some of the reels, and then there's clues on the wall, and there's clues all
written
about.
in like weird green blood or poop or something. I don't know what that was.
Well, it looked like it was like written in paint that would show up in black light, and there was probably some black light in there to make it, you know, like glow
differently. Yeah.
But I think what happens is now Bruce Wayne, Batman, starts piecing together who this might be, because there was, if you remember, well, you probably don't remember, but there was somebody in the same pictures with the Wayne family the night that Thomas Wayne pledged a bunch of money to what they call the renewal of Gotham, which part of it went to the orphanage, right? So, and the person standing right next to him, interestingly, had these Coke bottle glasses and kind of looked like the Riddler.
A mini version of, well, we later find out it's you never knew what he looks like. Right. You just saw a picture of him.
Yeah.
But in all the Riddler pictures, whenever because he's done all this, like, that was another thing we didn't touch on, was that in the movie, the Riddler is taking much advantage of like TikTok or it's not social media. And so he does all these like posts, and it's him in this like heavy green leather mask and almost like the Gimp costume, but in like an olive green. So very militaristic. But then he has his like weird clear glasses on the outside that he wears very prominently. And you're like, okay, I guess. Yeah. Hiding your face, but you need glasses still? I mean, it was a very odd situation there, but
so as what happens is, as they're figuring out these riddles, and Batman starts figuring out these riddles, it continues to lead, and it leads to the Riddler's apartment, right?
Yes.
And this is the area where,
and that's after he killed the guy from across the street.
Yeah. Because the Riddler
happened to be living across the street from the big crime lords club that Marconi and the Penguin were at.
So what happened was, when they were arresting Falcone, they were going to take him in and have him sing like a canary. He just gets shot like Lee Harvey Oswald, out of the book depository, just comes out of nowhere, gets shot. Everybody's screaming and fleeing. There's chaos going on. And then one of the cops spots the shooter in a window across the street and goes, it's across the street, it's across the street. They go in, Riddler's gone. Batman cases the apartment, clears it.
Goes in, clears it, and then realizes that he's been manipulated this entire time.
Right.
He brought Marconi into the light.
Yep.
And at that point he had looked up and saw, oh, the light's on, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm all of a sudden doing exactly what like one of the Riddler's clues was.
Right.
And so he realized he was being manipulated the whole time, and and then at that point they go up there, they start casing the joint, and then somebody calls in and says, I saw somebody go out the back door.
Right.
He's over at the diner across the street.
Yep. So they go over and they apprehend the Riddler.
Was sitting there having a coffee and ordering peach pie, apple pie. I forget what it was.
Apparently, I think he knew at that point he was going to get caught. So
but he wanted to be caught.
Yep. And so what happens is the Batman starts kind of like thinking about some of the riddles that have been out there, some of the clues. You see him thinking about it. And then he realizes he needs to go back to the Riddler's apartment because he thinks he's missed something.
He goes to the Riddler in Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, that's true.
He goes and talks to him.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah, the Riddler is almost like, come on, we're all in this together. You and me, Vengeance. We're going to do this together. Compadre, compadre. And then Batman at that particular moment in that scene realizes that, hold on a second, I've been manipulated this whole time. I need to go back and figure something out here. There's something wrong because the Riddler's giving him flack about what? You're an idiot. You didn't figure this out already?
And then what did you think about this part? The Riddler starts saying Bruce Wayne, and like, you know, you can see the look on Robert Pattinson's face or as Batman. Like, he's like, holy crap, did he figure out who I was? But then he was like, we gotta go get Bruce Wayne. And like, so then, like, I think the Batman realizes, well, nope, he didn't figure out who I was.
He was just doing some weird, because he repeated it later, the afflection of like, Bruce Wayne, like that was like a weird Whittler thing.
Right. So obviously this was a manipulation by the director on us to make us think like he's figured out who Batman is.
He's doing it on camera.
Because he's doing it on camera. And like, you see Robert Pattinson looking up at the camera like, oh my God. But then he says, we need to get Bruce Wayne, you know? So then he realizes, okay, maybe he doesn't know who I am.
Right.
But then he figures out, I've got to go back to his...
Right. There's something back. There's another clue.
There's another clue I've missed.
Something's going on. And he goes back and he discovers that the blunt instrument that was used to murder the mayor at the beginning scene
is a carpeting tool.
Right.
To pull up carpet. And thankfully he learned that because the cop who was standing guard, who's been in this movie the whole time, tells him, yeah, my brother, he was a carpenter and he used that tool. So he pulls that tool out of the evidence bag. He pulls up the carpet to reveal a map of Gotham City. And
with little blinking lights.
Little blinking lights.
Like, you couldn't see those under the carpet?
Yeah. Little blinking lights. And those lights represented bombs because apparently Gotham City is on a bay that has flood walls, and it showed where all the flood walls were that were going to blow up and flood the city.
Which I thought was odd because that never got talked about. And all of a sudden, what? Gotham City's got flood walls? I mean, that was like the only odd thing I thought, like, why didn't they set that up earlier? You know, because then the Riddler goes in and he sets up these trucks at all these key points. I think it was 8 key points.
Yeah.
And he's going to blow up these trucks all at the same time with this massive amount of dynamite that he's collected from his online community. Right? Because he's
got an online social community of followers that all are working in cahoots with him. Mm-hmm. And what happens is while Batman is standing in the apartment with a police officer and they're just piecing this together, bombs start going off in the background. Boom, boom, boom. And he realizes what's going on. So he goes, call it in. So, you know, he's trying to call it in, but all the channels,
all the
channels
phones
are
off.
Yeah, all the channels
Everyone's
are
calling
blocked.
cell phones because there's a massive mayoral event at, well, they called it Madison Square Garden.
No, they
right?
called it Gotham Square Garden.
Gotham Square Garden.
Yeah.
And so I heard the Square Garden. I thought it was Madison. So they had a Gotham Square Garden, and it was where the mayor's having this giant, political fun rally, and all the explosions are going off at that particular moment because the Riddler has manipulated all these online community people, and this is totally like, you get a little bit of a January 6th thing going on here.
Are they making commentary there?
A little bit of a commentary.
Anti-Trumpian
well,
commentary?
they didn't say that, but I mean, they definitely were implying that this I think it was a derivative of that,
Yeah.
But he's got together with his social media cohorts, and they've come up with this massive plan to bring rifles, bring gas masks, don't forget your cling wrap.
Yeah, cling wrap. Yeah.
And then set up all these bombs, and it's a whole bunch of people that the Riddler have gotten together.
Yep, and so the water starts flooding in from all sections of the city, because the city is kind of like a Manhattan, surrounded by
All right, it's
the
an
bay,
island. Yeah.
And the water is rushing in down the streets, and it starts flooding Gotham Square Garden. And so everybody's got to get to high ground, right? Mm-hmm. But all of the Riddler's followers show up at Gotham Square Garden. Right. They get in somehow with all of their masks, which are similar to the Riddler, and their rifles and ammunition, and they're sitting up on top of all the scaffolding at the top of the thing with their rifles, and they're ready to just start taking out people who are trying to escape the flood.
Right.
And that's
basically mass chaos. I mean, they're there to end the political lies.
Yeah.
I mean, that really was the Riddler's whole thing, was
no more lies.
No more lies, to expose the political bribery, cover-ups, the mafia connections, the corruption, the
which Thomas Wayne was part of.
Right, and you find that out. And that's a whole thing with Bruce Wayne, is that there, in the originals, Thomas Wayne has always been
an angel, a good guy, a great guy, and in this one he was. And you know what? He was still a good guy, but he did some corrupt things, and they tried to make it look like, he did it to save his wife's reputation, because they didn't want him really going down the true corrupt. Lane.
Yeah, he wasn't evil. He did it for a good reason.
Yeah.
Good reason.
Yeah.
So
it would have been more interesting if he was totally just corrupt, you know what I mean? And he didn't know that.
Well, they didn't want to destroy the entire Thomas Wayne.
I guess so.
What's the word? Not John.
Legacy.
Legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually we talked about this a little bit. We hinted at it on the Raw review, is that there was, because this was a detective film noir genre classic. I'm going to put it in that term.
We'll call it neo-noir.
Neo-noir. There was a lot of slow, talky moments during the movie.
Right.
And that ending, though, redeemed the rest of the entire movie. I mean, we talked about the Batmobile, and we wish it was in there, but I mean, that ending alone, completely it was such a great ending.
Right.
Where he came in there and he battled all of the Riddlers. Once he figured out what was going on, he realized that the Riddler had manipulated, I guess, but just played off the fears of all these people on social media, had them show up. They all, indeed, when he was in prison, showed up to do everything he had planned on. Bruce Wayne, Batman, ran it, did all these massive flips and acrobatics to get up there, stop them. Of course, this goes back to your whole comment about, man, that guy could take a lot of bullets.
So I mean, I like this movie, and I'm going to talk about a little bit later how much I like this movie. But the one criticism I would have is he took a lot of pain. When he did the sky base jump and he opened up his chute and it hit like a bridge. Remember that? And he went.
Yeah, and he
hit
went boom, boom, boom.
He hit the ground so hard and went tumbling. That would have broken collarbones and stuff like that.
I guess they were thinking he had armor on, so he kind of
Even with armor, that would have messed him up.
Right. And then the next day he's all okay.
Yeah, he's
limping.
Yeah, and like he's like now taking bullets, bullets almost to the face. Did you notice his cowl at the top was chipped where he took a bullet to the head? And so you're saying that cowl was bulletproof like that?
Like what's he got in there? Like lead-based?
Yeah, and like, so what was it where he, the explosion. Remember, like, he was in there and he was like talking to the guy.
Part.
We skipped that part. There was an explosion where, boom, it nailed him back. And like he landed on his back and all the police hovered around him and he like literally passed out. And the next thing you know, he wakes up at police headquarters on a table. Now, don't you think
surrounded by 20 cops?
Don't you think the first thing they would have done? I mean, before they got to police office,
I would agree.
Take that mask off. Who is this dude?
Except Gordon was there, and in the movie, he probably stopped them all because he was the lieutenant.
Even Lieutenant Gordon's got.
And then he wakes up before the commission shows up.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think that was the going back to your comment about the relationship between Gordon and him, is that I think there was a respect thing. Like he realized, he's got to kind of keep this what's the word I'm looking
anonymity.
for? Anonymity going, because he realized Batman is a symbol.
Right.
Even though they never really had,
Well, and Batman can get things accomplished that the police can't get accomplished.
Yes, right.
And like as soon as you unmask him, that resource is gone.
Right.
Right.
Right. And he was definitely heavily invested in that
Maybe that's the case. But when that happened in the movie, I'm like, what? They didn't unmask him already?
Right. They're all standing around him like he's on the table. He wakes up and he's got like 30 cops all standing around.
And they're like, let's take the mask off. Let's take the mask off. Right. And
and then well, again, it was only Lieutenant was there to stop them all, and then the commissioner shows up. But that time he woke up.
Right.
And then he gets up and he's like, get off me.
Yeah. But once again, there was like another time, I can't remember, where the pain was so great he like passed out.
Well,
and
with her.
And Selena Kyle was there. She could have unmasked him.
Actually, on that scene, I kind of thought he almost took his mask off like this.
He didn't.
No, and then she's like, no, don't do it. And she stopped him, and then she kissed him. It was that
I don't
scene.
remember that.
I think that's what was going on, because to your point, you're talking about up at the scaffolding when he's taking the shotgun right to the chest, at point blank almost. Yeah, is that there was and it was very, very subtle, because it wasn't like a big scene. It was very close in, and he was like this, almost like about to put, because you could see it moving, and she's like, no, stop, and then that was the kiss scene, one of the early kiss
I don't know,
scenes.
but he has the highest threshold for pain for any man.
Yeah,
so
well, there's Gen Zs, they can take their pain.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But so in the end, we're going back to Gotham Square Garden. It's the final act, the final scene where the Riddler's plan is coming to fruition. And what happens is, as the garden is flooded, things are falling, they're pinning people in, people are drowning in the water. But Batman, after he fights everybody and he kind of passes out up on the scaffolding, then he gets over that pain and he's okay. He jumps up.
Selena came in and helped him.
You know what? He drugged himself up.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember that?
He juiced himself with some extra something.
Some sort of like...
Because he was passed out, and then they were about to take out Selena.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, bear! And then he's gets up, and then
he takes out of his
beat
utility
the crap
belt.
out of that guy.
He's got some sort of like adrenaline thing that he actually has a hole in the armor of his leg for this to go into. He juices himself up. He's like got the adrenaline, kicks the butt. He goes downstairs where all these people are pinned underneath a scaffolding and they're going to drown. And it's like the mayor, the ex-mayor's orphan son, who all the time he keeps looking at throughout the movie.
Well, he associates.
So anyways, he actually pulls up the scaffolding and he extends his hand to the mayor, and the mayor still doesn't trust him. So
that was a big thing.
Yeah,
I mean, in the movie, that people did not trust him.
People didn't trust him, and the mayor doesn't trust him, won't take his hand. So he reaches over and he goes for the kid. The kid takes his hand. He pulls him out to safety. Then he looks at the mayor again and puts his hand, And this time she takes his hand.
Right.
And this shows then that everybody now trusts him, right? And then what was interesting is, so he gets everybody out of there. It's like the next morning, and it's on top of it's on top of the building where the mayor's going to have like a conference to say this city survives. But they've called in the National Guard. So what was really a surreal scene for me was Batman comes up with a girl in his arms, and he puts her on the gurney. She grabs his hand. She looks at him like, I don't know if I want to leave the Batman because he just saved me. And there, people are like, oh, do this. But he's doing this in the presence of military men who are looking at him as this mass vigilante almost. It was like a surreal moment for me to see that.
No, and I agree with you. It was very odd, and actually I teared. Oh, I'm sorry. Dane told me he teared up.
Did you tear up, Batman?
No,
okay.
Batman does not tear up.
Okay.
Dane teared up.
Dane teared up. I told you that guy's a wuss, man. I don't know why I work with that guy.
Dane teared up at that particular scene, and in fact, Dane told me that there was a woman on the other side. Jer was on this side, and the woman over here, and he was like trying to hide the tears as it came out of his eyes because it was a very bright scene, and the woman over here, and all these people are probably like could see all of that. It was a very touching moment, by the way, that Dane explained to me. And so that particular scene was very powerful to Dane.
Okay.
Because, yes, that was the first time Batman had been really accepted as a real superhero. That was the arc of the movie. He was
So that must have hit Dane and me totally different ways.
Right.
So Dane is tearing up over here, and I'm sitting here going, this is weird. Don't you think almost like the army would grab Batman and say, we got to know who you are. You're a national threat. I mean, if a guy is dressed up as in a mask and doing all the things he was doing, don't you think the federal government would come in and say, we want to know who this guy is? I don't know. It hit me weird. It hit me weird, but it was the end scene of the movie, and well, not quite. It was near the end because the end scene, it's back with Selina.
This movie did seem to have a lot of end scenes, right?
It was 3 hours long. Not unlike this review, but the end scene was Selina and Batman, Catwoman and Batman, and she's like saying, she's like she had gotten away with one bag of a lot of money from the Penguin and Carmine Falcone, which happened to be her father. We didn't even really go into that. But anyways,
side note,
happened to be her father. But anyways,
oh, by the way, we forgot to mention a major point of the movie.
She's like, I'm gonna go off to a different city, and for some reason, I'm gonna say she said Minnesota or something. And he's like,
didn't he say it's cold up there?
Yeah, she goes, I'm gonna go to Minnesota. And he goes, it's cold up there or something. She goes, I don't know. You want to go with me? He goes, I can't. I got to stay here. He goes, I've got to try to work on cleaning up Gotham. And she's like, I don't think that can be done. He goes, but I've got to try.
Let's kiss.
Getting into the noir thing.
No, wait, they didn't kiss.
They like moved in on each other.
They both had their own motorcycles, and somehow she stuffed the cats into the trunk of the motorcycle. I'm like, Peter's gonna have a comment about this, because it was like a compartment this big. And she just puts it in and close.
So they leave the cemetery because they were looking at the cemetery of her mom. And they were in a cemetery, so they leave the cemetery, and it comes to a fork in the road.
They've both been racing down there. She and I have been racing down there together.
On their motorcycles. Once again, we said there's way too many motorcycle scenes in this. But anyways, so Catwoman goes off to the left, Batman goes off to the right. But Batman continues to watch her in the rearview mirror. I kept thinking, like, what if there's a curve?
Did you know she just disappears all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I was like wondering, like, what if there's a curve in the road and Batman's not even looking at the road? He's like looked or something, and it's like boom, 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 boom. No,
I would agree. He was kind of watching that a little too much.
But after that, he rides off like into the sunrise, if you will. And he's going to fight another day for Gotham.
And actually, that's a great point, because at the end of that, they show like a close-up of his face on the motorcycle, and he's like, like this. And it looked very like like cartoonish.
Yeah.
Like they were almost like it was kind of like they were saying like, here's our homage to the original comic book because of the way it was a super close up of him going like like that. And I thought they did a great job with that ending. I mean, there was a lot of stuff you were kind of like, no, they're not going to end now.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to end now. And they kind of like, they closed off all the loose ends of the screenplay.
Yeah. So the funny thing is this movie was 3 hours. And
yes. Strangely, like our review.
Yeah. I wanted it to go a little bit longer, or I could have watched it a little bit longer. In fact, Matt Reeves said that when he submitted his final cut, it was 4 hours.
Oh my God.
And
I would have loved it.
They watched it, and the studio said, we can't do 4 hours. You got to cut it down to at least a minimum of 3. So Matt Reeves has said that the scenes that he cut out, or the 4 hour scenes, will return in an extended version when it hits Blu-ray.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, and I think that's great. Because I think as we digested this and regurgitated it and talked about it, that we both agree we wanted more scenes, but there were some quiet scenes in there.
But you know what? First of all, in any 3 hour movie, there's going to be some slow
You
scenes.
didn't feel a little sleepy during some of these moments?
I did.
Maybe?
In the middle act, I did feel a little
I heard that there could be some sleepy moments in
I
this
had been
movie.
traveling all week for work. Like, I was in Boston and getting up at 3 a.m. to make
heard
flights.
From Dane that there was
so there was
two moments in this movie.
There was 2 moments where I started nodding off in the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was just wondering. If
I
heard
did.
It was like, film noir, classic film noir has a lot of different things that go along with it, but then one of them is dialogue and more quiet moments.
Yeah, well, once I slapped my face a couple times, took a sip of my...
Throw some water.
Water and popcorn. I was reinvigorated for Act 3, and I didn't come close.
Kind of probably sounds like our fans. This is how this works, right? They get around in middle of Act 2, and they're like, let's throw some water on our face and throw popcorn over our heads, and like, ready for Act 3! Well, what are we doing here now?
The people, so normally at this point, Batman,
I'm not familiar with your format.
I know. The people we told to leave because we're going to go into heavy spoilers.
Okay.
We flashed a time for them earlier to come back. So we're going to tell them to come back in now so that we can do our Cult Lords ratings. So I hope that's okay with you.
It's acceptable.
Okay. All right. Come back in, people. We're about to do our Cult Lords ratings. All right, viewers that are coming back, thanks for sitting out the spoilers. For those that sat in, have already seen the movie, we went in depth about the movie, but now we're going to do our spoiler-free Cult Lords ratings. And if you saw our spoiler-free review right out of the theater, we said purposely we were going to hold off on doing these Cult Lords reviews because the last time we tried to give Cult Lords reviews, just to let you know this, Boy Wonder. The last time we tried to do this, Dane and I ended up changing our Cult Lords ratings later. So we decided to hold this off.
I wasn't aware of
Once
that.
we have time to digest a movie, your opinion might change.
Right.
Once you even redigest the movie, as Dane has coined, redigest a movie, your opinion might change. So now we're doing the Cult Lords ratings. But before I do that, Batman, I typically like to go with the Rotten Tomato scores and let people know what the critics and the audience have thought. So, for the Rotten Tomato scores, as of this taping, and it might change because people are seeing, this is opening weekend, so people are seeing it this weekend, so this score might change by the time that this airs.
And is that a thing that happens with Rotten Tomatoes? It changes over time?
Yeah, especially as people are seeing it and they're going and rating it, these these Rotten Tomato scores can change. I've seen it happen.
You were
in the
just
past.
thinking of the more important one, the Cult Lords
The
ratings.
Cult Lords ratings, right. So, Masked Man,
Yes.
Kimosabi, the critics rated The Batman at 85%. So I think they liked it.
Okay.
But the audience rated this at 91%. I think they liked it too.
It sounds like it. They liked it too.
All right. So now it's time to do our Cult Lords rating. And I know you didn't get a chance to see this movie. This is Dane's score.
I was on my bat phone.
Okay.
And Dane called it in and said,
He phoned it in?
Put this in. He phoned
Literally?
it. He batted it in and he said, literally, put this down. Because I was still thinking about it.
Was it under like a Shakespeare, like your phone that you had to like open up?
That's exactly it. It was under a glass case, and he called it in.
It was the red phone.
It was the red phone.
Yeah, what's the Shakespeare thing? That's to open up the
door to get down through the fire.
Oh, that's what it is. I'm sorry, your bat boot like scared the crap out of me.
I was gonna say,
okay.
What happened here?
All right,
but yes, I have that effect on people. It commonly scares people when I touch them.
Well,
or
fear
electrifies them.
As Batman
fear
says,
is a powerful
tool. Fear is a tool.
Vengeance.
Okay. All right. So let us reveal our Cult Lords ratings on the count of 3.
Bat count.
The bat count of 3. All right. 3, 2, 1. Oh, this is the closest that Dane
we've ever been.
Well, you haven't.
YouTube vigilante. Holy smokes, Batman! Pow! 9192.
Yeah.
This is the first time in Cult Lords history that you and Dane have been so close.
Within 1/10 of a point apart from each other. So.
That was close.
So I'll just say this. It was a great movie. I'm still digesting it to know if I put it where I rank it among all the Batman movies. I will say this. I'll go out on a limb right now and say it's already in my top 3. It could make it to the top 2. I don't know if it'll be number 1. But it's going to be right there in the top 3 for sure. I don't know what Dane would rank this.
Well, I was going to, ironically or coincidentally, I don't know what to determine it. I was going to ask you that. After we've talked about this and talked about our top 8 superhero movies, where would you put it in there?
So the thing is this. Every movie that I've ranked in my top 8, I've seen multiple times. I have not seen this multiple times yet. I need to see it at least one more time before it could possibly enter in my top 8 list. So I don't know. The jury is still up. I'm already designating it as my top 3 Batman movies of all time, and that could change on a second viewing. So it was really good. I like the fact of what Matt Reeves achieves.
Bat Reeves.
Bat Reeves. We've nicknamed him Bat Reeves now.
Bat Reeves, Matt Reeves, please.
Yeah.
Comment.
Yeah, so we like I like what Bat Reeves was trying to accomplish here. I really like the neo-noir setting. You know, when let's put it this way. I think everybody will like this movie. I mean, it's kind of showing in the scores that a majority of people do. But like when my parents saw the trailer of Robert Pattinson doing this, they were like, oh, maybe that might not be a movie for us. After I saw it, I called them up and said, no, you will like this. You will like this movie. And so I think people of all ages, will like this movie. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I do agree with you that people love me in this movie because it was well done, thought out. It was a detective noir movie, so it wasn't really, in some ways you could say this wasn't a superhero movie. It was really a vigilante movie, which is more in the genre of Kick-Ass. I mean, they kind of cross back into it's a person who doesn't have any superpowers, who's just pure grit, intelligence, and money, in this case, can put together an entire a persona that takes on crime. And, and they didn't even make the criminals very ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah.
So I agree with you. My parents, my dad especially, would probably really like this movie. My wife would really get into it. My son would definitely enjoy it. My dog would like it too. He looks like Batman.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll make an appearance.
Dynamite.
Dynamite, yes. But I agree. I mean, they did such a great job of touching all the film noir points, and
I like after seeing Ben Affleck and Christian Bale, which were both more like Christian Bale was supposed to be more modern, gritty, and realistic. Ben Affleck, they went a little bit more on, they wanted to show more action from Ben Affleck, but this one went back to detective roots. And I really liked it.
And in some ways almost simplistic.
Yeah.
Because there was no over-the-top... you could say almost the only thing that was over the top in this was the Batmobile, because of the way. But it was, but it wasn't over the top.
But that was still realistic.
I know that's the weird thing about it, because if you look into the context of the movie, it was the most over top piece in the movie.
Right.
But if you compare it to other movies, it wasn't.
Yeah, like when Christian Bale in Dark Knight Rises has like a hover ship that that flies out the bomb over the bay.
Right.
There's not even technology that can do that today. You know what I mean? That ship. You know what I mean? So that was over the top.
It kept it grounded in reality, and it was much more based on character development and storyline, and we talked about this earlier about all the rain that was happening, and the glossy lights, and the femme fatale. I mean, these are all tropes of film noir, and they did such a great job of putting them out there and making me look great.
And you know what? I like the fact that he took Gotham and he made it look like kind of a rundown big city, but he didn't make it like a gothic cesspool of hell. You know what I mean? There were some moments where they showed Gotham looking kind of beautiful. You know what I mean? And there were rundown parts of Gotham, just like there is in any big city. Mm-hmm. But I just like everything Matt Reeves did in this movie. I can't critique too much other than the fact that how much pain Bruce Wayne was able to survive in this. You know what I mean?
To take on
all
those gunshots.
That was like my only.
They glossed over the whole armory part.
And I don't know if you know this, but Matt Reeves has already said that they're going to do a Batman 2 on this. He's already said that they will not inject any other superheroes in this movie with superhero powers. So there's not going to be Superman in this world.
Okay, so it's grounded in reality.
This world of Gotham is all in reality.
It's like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Yeah.
There's no superhero-ish type thing going on. It's more just the personality. So.
Yeah. And by the way, if you do want to go see the movie, you don't need to stay through the credits, just to let you know.
Yes. But we do highly recommend go to a Dolby Atmos theater.
Yes.
You have to find one in Chicago. There's one on the southwest side. I think there's a couple more.
There's one in Naperville. There's one in the north.
I mean, you gotta go to this because, man, forget about IMAX being like super intensive with that. When you get the sound and your seats just basically bubbling on you,
the rumble seats.
Yeah, the rumble seats. It is amazing work for this movie how it works with this kind of technology.
Don't wait for this to come out on HBO Max, please.
No,
this is not the movie to do it. The mask sanctions are being lifted. You can go out, see a movie. The movie was pretty packed yesterday. Everybody, and it's fun. When the movie was over, I'd say about 70% of the people applauded when this movie was over. You know,
right. You don't get that too often.
You don't get that too often. It was a great movie. So
yeah.
So that's it, Cult Lords. Thanks for spending some time with us. Thanks for you, Boy Wonder, stepping in for Dane, who's on PTO this week. Make sure to watch our other acts. And we have upcoming Zombies. We have the French Dispatch. Our Star Wars Cold Opens version 2. Lots of stuff coming up.
And we do need subscriptions.
We need subscriptions. You saw what happens. You saw what happens with this guy.
Need subscriptions.
You saw what he will do if you do not subscribe.
Oh, I'm going to give you another taste of it right now.
Right here. Yeah, so for the 70% of you that are watching our show but not subscribing, that's going to happen to you. Isn't that right, Batman?
That's right.
So,
it is going to happen to you.
So we want to
every one of you individually.
We want to thank all of you once again. We'll see you very soon. And once again, thanks again, Batman. You've just been staring at me like that the whole time. What's... I actually got it.
I know, you hit me in the... That's fine.
Sorry about that.
I hope it made it.